Oromo Voice Radio English program. Oromo Voice Radio is broadcasting to Oromia at 16-meter band or 17,850 kilohertz or on oromovoice.org website. OVR broadcasts Oromia Insight program every Monday for 15 minutes at 7:15 p.m. Oromia local time. Welcome to Oromia Insight program.
Welcome to Oromia Insight. My name is Ali Galeto. Today I will share with you Chicago Public Radio interview. As a Protestant violent, Ethiopia finds itself on brink of civil war. Chicago Public Radio interview with Getachew Begashaw, Professor of Economics at Harvard College. He is originally from Ethiopia. And Sena Jamjamo, a Chicago-based writer and the campaign director for the Oromo Advocacy Group.
WBEZ is supported by Barnes & Thornburg, a law firm committed to a value-oriented approach to serving clients and solving their complex business problems. For all legal needs in Chicago, across the nation, and around the world. On the web at btlaw.com. Worldview for WBEZ, I'm Jerome McDonald. The Ethiopian government uses deadly force to put down protests, but the protesters keep coming. We'll discuss the threat of civil war in Ethiopia. Art Inspires, we'll find out about a new exhibit that encourages you to see the forest for the trees. And in our Global Activism segment, we'll hear about a group that empowers young women in southwestern Kenya. Don't forget, you can join the conversation on Twitter at WBEZ Worldview. Over the weekend, more than 100 protesters were killed in Ethiopia. An opposition leader in London says the country was at a crossroads. He said they're protesting against land grabs, repatriations, stolen elections, the rising cost of living, and like many other observers, he thinks that civil war is a distinct possibility in Ethiopia. We're going to talk about what's going on with Getachew Begashaw. He is a professor of economics at Harper College. He's originally from Ethiopia. Thanks a lot for joining us in Getachew.
My pleasure.
And also in the studio with me is Sena Jamjamo. She's a Chicago-based writer and campaign director for the Oromo Advocacy Group. Thanks for joining us again, Sena. Good to see you.
Thank you.
For a lot of people don't know much about the ethnic groups in Ethiopia. You're from the Oromo ethnic group in Ethiopia, and that is where most of the protesting got started in Ethiopia in this round of protests that started late last year. Explain what's been happening there.
So late last year, mid-November, the protests started against the land grab. And this is not the first time. The Ethiopian government brought out a plan, what they call a master plan, displacing nearly over 2 million people in a land of about over 1 million hectare land.
And the idea was basically they're expanding the capital.
The capital, right.
And all the land around the capital is Oromo land.
Right. The capital is located at the heart of Oromia region. Oromo people are surrounding the capital, but even though the majority of people who live in the city are not Oromos, but that is Oromo land. So when they expand it, a lot of things, it will displace millions of farmers. It will change the dynamic. It will change the livelihood of Oromo people because the capital city is the language spoken in the capital city. The culture is way different than the Oromo region. In Oromo, Ethiopia is ethnic governance. They have Oromo region are governed by Oromo, other region are governed by their own kind. So when they expand that, not only they displace the farmers, they will change the livelihood of the Oromo people. They will cut the land in two places.
Getachew, could you tell me a little bit about the Ethiopian government? And it's ethnically based too, and it has a strategy for development in Ethiopia. What has their idea been?
Thank you. First, we may need to establish that this government in Ethiopia is an ethnic minority government, at best representing only about 6% of the total population. That means alienating the remaining 94% of the population from the real economic, political, social lives of the country. Especially the Oromos, which constitute the majority, and next the Amharas, which will be the second largest ethnic group. Together, they may be forming between 70 to 75% of the total population. And this minority government, by the very nature of its government establishment or process of it, is undemocratic, brutally violent, extremely repressive, because by any kind of arrangement it cannot hold the state power other than by force. Any kind of alliances or power-sharing methods will not allow it to have the majority and control the army, the security, and all the important government institutions.
Now, one of the ways I've had it explained to me is that the government there was trying to be, while they were kind of authoritarian, they were trying to model themselves on China in a lot of ways and deliver economic growth and prosperity, and Ethiopia has growth rates of 10% over the last 10 years, and they're friends with the United States and the Western countries. Everybody looks to them as the source of stability and economic growth and the engine of the Horn of Africa, and that's all we hear about.
That's very good that you brought it up. But actually, yes, it calls itself a developmental state. But this government is a government that has no legitimacy and acceptance by the people, and it has denied all forms of rights, any kind of dissent or different view than that of the government is criminalized, even where civic societies are not allowed to freely operate in the country, where the ingenuity and the full participation of the people, especially of the major ethnic groups, the Oromos and the Amharas, are suppressed, this developmental policy cannot hold. The reason is this government has taken over all the monopoly of economic and political life, and it has relegated these people out of the game, and they can't contribute anything. But this, myth of economic growth is just sham statistics that cannot really hold water or cannot be not verified, but it is daily proven by facts on the ground. Ethiopia, by any measure of economic development indices, is amongst the lowest 5 countries in the world. The poverty rate is high. The Human Development Index is the lowest. And just call anything, the Ethiopian people. Today, I can comfortably claim that over 90% of the Ethiopian people cannot have one decent meal a day, and where people are scavenging in the trashes to get something to eat, or if they are better off than their neighbors, they may have just one meal for 4 or something like that. And in light of all this, it is really very painful and also shameful when the international financial institutions and governments are, parading this government as an example of economic development around the world, especially in Africa.
Right. Getachew Begashaw is a professor of economics at Harper College. He's originally from Ethiopia, and we're talking about the situation there with 100 protesters killed over the weekend and lots more protests coming. Sina, with the Oromo issue kind of brings all this together. The idea of land grabs, which was what the master plan was all about, was something that was benefiting the international community and people who are investors, and there was a lot going on. Right,
at the expense of the indigenous people, the local people instead. So you mentioned earlier about 10% growth, the GDP, and it's about 15 to 19 million people are hungry, and it was released. How could you have a growth in that rate and also claiming that? So the Oromo issue, the Oromo protests have been going on for 9 months, and it is only getting attention over the just weekend because about 100 people died, and it got an attention because it happened in the capital city. Oromo has been protesting in all around Oromia region for the 9 months.
And it's illegal to protest.
But the law, the Ethiopian constitution, it gives them a permit that if you are peaceful protest, it says that actually in Proclamation number 3, 1991, on their constitution, it gives them a permit that to protest, you don't need merely a duty of notification. if you are having a peaceful protest. And it was peaceful protest. There has been over 200 cities took place in that protest, including the capital city. These people were not armed. These people could not fight back. They were brutally murdered. In Oromia region, if you see, there's not a single person that were killed at that Saturday and all throughout the 9 months.
And one of the interesting things about the protest recently is that it isn't just the Oromo area anymore, it's the Amhara area. And this kind of changes the dimensions. Sometimes the Oromo are kind of portrayed by the government as the people who stir things up, and they try to divide the Oromo from the rest of the people.
So that has been always the conversation the Ethiopian government have portrayed to the Western. The Ethiopian government, as Getachew has said, they cannot sustain the country without the foreign aid. The aid that they give, people don't have to pay tax. The government is not accountable to the people. So the Oromo, even if you see they say they put about 30 to 35 million people, these are the majority people are protesting. They've been going on. And so the fact that now Amhara, the second largest group, have risen up and since July 12, so it's 8 months later, so have changed the conversation definitely, and have put the Ethiopian government at far front to define, and they cannot justify the killing of these innocent people when they cannot fight back. And so it changed the whole dynamic as Oromo being an extremist. Oromo was never an extremist. Oromo was just this narrative the Ethiopian government have been selling to the Western to get aid, to keep them in power for the longest and still.
Getachew, how do you explain that to people? Because there are armed resistance groups that are within the Ethiopian diaspora. There's a group called Jinbat 7 now that's operating that used to be a democracy folks who are advocating for democracy in Ethiopia, and they're trying to get in the country. And how do you explain what's going on there?
Yeah, thank you. First of all, I really would like to compliment what my sister Sima is saying at this point. Although the Oromo protest had been consistently, steadfastly continued for over the last 8 or 9 months. Now, the Amhara regions, especially the region of Gondar and now Gojam, have joined this struggle, and not only joining, but have given it a countrywide or national cover that it looks or the movement, the struggle of the people is all-encompassing Ethiopian struggle against a government that is unjust and ruthlessly violent and is bent on kind of pogroms. They have a very criminally minded military junta members who are really still contemplating on committing horrendous crimes, mass killings and murders to subdue the struggle. And so this can only be stopped through the struggle of our people without differentiating ethnicity, religion, age, or wise, or other than. And the people of Gondar have clearly manifested that the blood of our Oromo brothers and sisters that have been flooding in the streets of many cities is also our blood. Our struggle is their struggle, and we stand together for free democratic Ethiopia. And this is very refreshing and encouraging. And this uprising, mass uprising, and the protest, peaceful. Even in Gondar, it was peaceful. The people were forced to shoot back when the government shoots at them, and simply empty-handed, peaceful struggle did not stop this government or limit to the distractions that they have been causing to human and material lives. And so people have the freedom to defend themselves.
This interview will continue next week.